Welcome to the Content Playbook, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of content creation. I'm your host, Riso2. This will be the season finale, so this episode might be a little longer. And today we're diving into the world of gaming with a focus on retro gaming. Let's start off with the appeal of retro gaming. First and foremost, nostalgia plays a huge role. Many of us grew up playing these games, and they hold a special place in our hearts. There's something incredibly comforting about returning to games from our childhood. These games have simple graphics and chiptune music that can instantly transport us to a simpler time, invoking fond memories of hours spent in front of the TV with a controller in the hand. Simplicity and accessibility. Retro games often have a simpler mechanics compared to modern titles. The simplicity is a big part of their charm. You don't need to memorize complex control schemes or invest hours into learning the game system. You can pick up a retro game and start having fun almost immediately. This makes them accessible to a wider audience, including people who might not consider themselves hardcore gamers. Artistic style. The artistic style of retro games is a major draw. Pixel art has a timeless quality that continues to captivate players. The limitations of early hardware forced developers to be creative, resulting in iconic visuals that are still celebrated today. Games like Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda remain visually distinctive, and their art styles have influenced countless modern indie games. Challenging gameplay. Many retro games are known for their challenging gameplay. They require precision, timing, and practice. This challenge can be incredibly rewarding. Completing a difficult level or defeating a tough boss in a retro game gives a sense of accomplishment that's hard to match. The just one more try factor, players keep coming back, determined to overcome the obstacles in their way. Community and culture. Retro gaming has fostered a vibrant community and culture. From online forums to YouTube channels and Twitch streams, there are countless ways for fans to connect and share their passion for these classic games. Retro gaming events, conventions, and even competitive tournaments celebrate the enduring appeal of these titles. The community aspect adds a layer of enjoyment as fans swap tips, share stories, and relive their favorite gaming moments. Preservation and legacy. Lastly, there's a growing awareness of the importance of preserving gaming history. Retro games are essential part of that history. Efforts to re-release classic games on modern platforms such as the NES Classic Edition or digital collections on current consoles make these games accessible to new generations of players. Emulation and preservation projects ensure these cultural artifacts are not lost. Iconic retro games and consoles. First up, we have the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES. Released in 1985, the NES was a game changer for the video game industry. It brought video games back into the mainstream after the crash of 1983. Some of the most iconic games of all times were born on this system. Super Mario Bros. Is perhaps the most famous NES game. It introduced us to Mario, the Italian plumber, who would become one of the most recognizable characters in gaming. The Legend of Zelda, another groundbreaking title for the NES, was this game. This game introduced players to the vast world of Hyrule, filled with dungeons, puzzles, and secrets. Next system. Before the NES, there was the Atari 2600, released in 1997. The Atari 2600 was one of the first home consoles and played a crucial role in popularizing video gaming. While originally an arcade game, Pac-Man became a hit on the Atari 2600, and I still said it wrong. Sorry about that. The game's simple yet addictive gameplay made it a phenomenon. Space Invaders was another classic arcade game that found a home on the Atari 2600. The game was a pioneer in the shoot 'em up genre, tasking players with defending Earth from waves of alien invaders. Moving forward to the late '80s and early '90s, we have the Sega Genesis. This console was known for its impressive graphics and sound capabilities, which set it apart from its competitors. Sega's mascot, Sonic the Hedgehog, made his debut on the Genesis. Sonic was designed to be the cooler, faster alternative to Mario, and he quickly became a hit. Street Fighter, although it started as an arcade game, Street Fighter 2 became hugely popular on home consoles like the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. This fighting game was revolutionary for its time, introducing a diverse cast of characters and deep strategic gameplay. Now, speaking of the Super Nintendo, this console was released in 1991 and is often considered one of the greatest of all time due to its extensive library of high quality games. Super Metroid on the NES took exploration and item gathering mechanics of the original Metroid game to new heights. Final Fantasy VI. RPG fans hold Final Fantasy VI in high regard. Released on the Super Nintendo, this game featured an epic story, memorable characters, and a rich, immersive world. As we moved into the mid 90s, the Sony PlayStation emerged as a dominant force in the gaming industry. Released in 1994, it brought 3D graphics and CD quality sound to the forefront. Final Fantasy VII was a landmark title for the PlayStation. Its expansive world, cinematic storytelling, and iconic characters like Cloud and Sephiroth left a mark on gaming history. Resident Evil, another PlayStation classic. This survival horror game introduced players to creepy mansion and its zombie-infested hall. Let's talk about the lasting impact retro games have on modern gaming. Retro gaming has left an incredible mark on the landscape of modern gaming. One of the most significant contributions is the foundational game mechanics and design principles established by early games. Titles like Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, and Pac-Man introduced gameplay elements that remain core to game development today. For instance, the concept of level design in Super Mario Bros. Taught players the new mechanics in a safe environment before gradually increasing difficulty. This design philosophy is still prevalent in contemporary games. Moreover, retro games have fostered a deep sense of nostalgia, influencing both gamers and developers. The pixel art style and chiptune music and of early gaming have seen a resurgence in indie games. Titles like Shovel Knight and Stardew Valley pay homage to the aesthetics and mechanics of 8-bit and 6-bit games, proving that these classic styles can still captivate modern audiences. Another lasting impact is the preservation and celebration of gaming history. Retro gaming has fueled the growth of emulation and re-releases, ensuring that classic games remain accessible. Services like Nintendo Switch Online and PlayStation's Retro Collections allow new generations to experience these timeless titles. This not only honors the past, but also provides valuable lessons in game design and storytelling. As we continue to talk about retro gaming, we're going to get into our guest, which is coming up next, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the Content Playbook podcast, where we dive into different content creators. Right now, we have our guest here, and I'd like her to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is AshSaidHi, and I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Tell us what kind of content creation.
So I focused mainly on retro gaming, lots of Nintendo games, and indie games that kind of have like a retro vibe. So you can think like things like Shovel Knight, or Cavern of Dreams, or The Messenger, like anything that has like a low poly or pixel vibe, but is also indie games. And I love playing Star Trek games. We have a dedicated Star Trek day, which is really fun. And I've been doing a long series of the Elder Scroll games. So I started doing Morrowind and played that for about 270 hours, which was like a year and a half. And now I'm doing Oblivion, which has been really fun.
Oh, right. Well, thanks for being back on the show. And I say back on the show because you were the first guest when this podcast was originally called the Gaming Temple. So,
Yeah.
and so I decided to rebrand, and I was like, let me get Ash back, because I don't know if you got to listen to the podcast before, the first one we did, but the audio was a little everywhere. So
Yeah, that's okay. You know what? We live and we learn and we grow and we get better, and at least you're doing it. You know, you wouldn't know until you do it, and then you learn, right?
Right.
So
that was the best thing. I was like, well, I know what to do next time. So
yeah.
and it's great that I can have the videos do now, because I think it's a lot better.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into some questions. You did just tell us a little bit about your background and your content. So what inspired you to choose this particular niche?
Well, in terms of retro, I think, every gamer that I know at least has a huge backlog of video games that they've always wanted to get to. And I think that that's definitely a part of it for me. I think also when I first started streaming in March of 2019, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to focus on, but I played some retro games on my Super Nintendo Mini, and I had a lot of fun. And then, being a part of the retro community on Twitch, I met a lot of wonderful people who are, still my friends to this day. Oh, Bobby's joining us, by the way.
Hi, Bob.
Yeah, she does that. She likes to crash the show. But
It's okay.
yeah, but I think the retro community is really a big part of what inspired me, because they were so willing to help and willing to show me the ropes and, kind of, give pointers along the way. And like I said, I met a lot of really great friends that I still have today. So I think that's my big inspiration. But also, I feel like I get to share a lot of who I am as a person through sharing memories of my mom and my dad, and games that we played together and games that we grew up with, and I get to share very real and fun experiences with people, and it allows me to be authentic with my audience. So I appreciate it for those reasons as well.
That's really good. I do like watching your stuff, and then your especially on Instagram, your thank yous about the games you played and everything. And it's always nice especially when I just randomly see them. I haven't been on Twitch as much lately because of life be lifing. So it's when I get you, I was like, hey, there's Ash. Let me say hi to Ash.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I get that comment a lot, actually. I get that comment a lot. Well, first I get, Ash, I don't know how you could keep up with doing this. Which is it's funny to me because I immediately usually do them right after my stream, and it's become so routine that it's I feel weird if I don't do it. But it's always been a pillar for me to express how much I value people's time who decide to raid or hang out or, follow or whatever. And I'd like to reciprocate that, that investment in me with their time. So that's why I feel it's really important. But I love that people appreciate those videos because they are fun to make. And it is a good reminder of hey, what did we do today? Oh, we made progress on this thing. And you can kind of see it grow as you go along.
Definitely. So that brings me to the next question. So about your creative process. So how do you come up with new content ideas?
Oh my gosh, I am brainstorming all the time. In fact, I have a book here, that's a notebook that I keep on my desk all the time of ideas that I want to work on, or ideas that, I need to keep track of. The biggest thing for me is figuring out what I want to accomplish as a creator. So a new idea that I've had recently is that I want to write articles about the indie games that I've been playing, because when people search, about those indie games, because a lot of times, as creators, we get early access, or, we get to work with small dev teams who really need our support in terms of amplifying the fact that their game is coming out and things like that. I think it would bring a certain kind of, like make it reputable what we do. Like, not to say that content creation isn't reputable, but like elevate it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like if somebody, is searching for a game and they see like, oh, Ash wrote an article about, this game, and now it has like SEO value, and it also can be, like a piece that is like a professional piece, and also, showcase my skills as somebody who doesn't just play games, but has, like things to say about the games that I'm playing. You know what I mean? Like I can evaluate them and give like thoughtful, meaningful opinions, and like share, like, hey, I really love this game. This is why I think you'll like it too. So, that's like one small idea I had, and that sprang from like, people being like, oh, Ash, like, do you ever write about any of the things that you do? So, I have a blog on my website, but like sometimes like they just spur like in the moment, right? So like, for example, you could be playing a game on Twitch, right? And then Twitch chat really reacts to something that happens in the moment.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, you know what? That would make a really cool alert, or that would make a really cool channel point redemption, or that would make a really cool meme that we could all like kind of, celebrate every time something similar happens. So I think being present in the moment absolutely helps you define, like really cool ideas. But, just listening to like, the constant feedback that you're getting from chat, or like whatever, like, or, like it could be like on Twitter too, like I make a post and some things people really like, or some things people like really resonate, or just like the feedback you gave me today. Hey, I really like the video that you shared. Then how can I like, expand on that, or make it better, or like do a new version of it? So I think also going to school for advertising and graphic design and like marketing kind of also helped,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like it definitely helped. I use those aspects in what I do all the time. So it's always thinking about like, well, how can I connect deeper with the people I'm making content for? Like, what is it that you would like? Like, so for example, right, like we play a lot of retro games. So one thing that we've kind of lost over time is the ability to have booklets or, game manuals and game guides. So I started like a little video series of me just like flipping through a game guide with the music from the game that I'm covering. And people were like, yo, I love this. I forgot about this. Thank you for showing this to me. I never got a chance to see it. And I think those like, really cool moments of like, oh, we connected on this thing that we both really love is like super meaningful. And it's always good to expand on those kinds of feelings for me. So that's kind of how I think about things. Like I'm always thinking about how can I connect with people, and how can I uplift, whatever it is that I'm a part of, and then how can I bring value with my unique talents.
I did see one of your videos with the manuals. I didn't have the sound on, but I was like, oh, this is neat. I like, because we don't think about that. You don't think about like the manuals, the gaming, was it Game Informer or the Super Nintendo magazine that used to come out? Like we don't like, people don't think about that because we're so used to everything being online.
Right.
And we didn't have that before. Like you look at the game manual, see what buttons to press. And how to do anything. So
or like
I think that's a neat idea.
Right. Yeah. Or like the unique artwork that's in there, or sometimes there's story lore that we don't get that's in the, that's not in the game, because like, when you think about like 90s and 80s like PC games, right? Like they couldn't fit everything into the game or on the disc. So the manual had to become a part of the experience of the game to, have the backstory, or like the setting, or like the map, or like the understanding of, what's going on, like what your motivation in the game. And obviously, as games grew bigger and consoles became more powerful, the need for that particular aspect is less and less. But you lose something in losing that. And that's why I wanted to share that. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's a really good idea. So, Phil, can you walk us through one of your typical creation processes from idea to publication?
Sure. So, like I said, I usually, first thing is I write it down, right? Like, I'm the person that I have so much going on. If I write it down, like physically in a place, it helps it commit to my memory more and, tell me on the priority list of things what I should tackle first, right? So then, depending on what it is, like let's say it's a new overlay set because I had an idea like, oh, I want to do a cooking stream. Chat really like resonated with the fact that we always talk about food, so maybe I should do a cooking stream one day. I had that idea, I wrote it down, and then I started to source my inspiration. What do I want these pieces to feel like or look like, or what do I want people's emotional reaction to be when they see this thing? So for this particular idea, I'm going to use the cooking stream as an example, so that way we have some direction of what we're talking about. I was like, okay, I'm from New York. Everybody loves the Channel Point Redeem that I have. That's me saying the word hot dog. Why don't I make the logo for that a hot dog, right? So then it became Ash Said Yum. And I wrote the words out, and then I drew the picture, and I was like, yo, this like really came out really good. So then like I shared it with like a few people that I trust and some members of my community, got feedback on it, and then implemented it, then created all the overlays and then implemented it. I haven't done the cooking stream yet, but that's usually what I do is like I come up with an idea, I write it down, I execute it, and then I'll get like feedback on it, and then go live with it. Because I feel like a lot of the times, like we feel like things have to be perfect before we should fully execute something. And I have learned that 90% is the way to go. Like, you aim for 90%, you'll most likely get things done. If you wait until something's perfect or the right opportunity or right time, you're never gonna get it done. So I just am like, let me just do it, make the mistakes along the way, and make it happen and figure things out in the moment. So that's usually my process from beginning to end. Is like, don't think too hard, just do it,
Right.
and then see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean that's like with this podcast. As we talked about at the beginning, it's like I started it. Our first episode with audio was terrible, but I wanted to get it done, and that's what I did. I got it done. I got it out there, and it took me a couple more years to actually get back into it because life. But it was like, okay, like I'm doing this. It may not be perfect, but it's gonna be out there because I do all my editing and everything. So it's gonna be out there. It's gonna get done. Like people will be able to see it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that holds people back from success is that they tell themselves no. They don't allow themselves to make a mistake, or they don't do it, and then they're like, oh, I wish I shoulda, coulda, woulda, and it's like, well, if you just did it, you would learn so much more from that process versus I wanted this to be exactly a certain way or whatever,
Right.
Most success is just showing up.
Oh yeah, definitely. That brings us actually nice. What tools or resources do you find indispensable when you're creative, when you're doing creative work?
Oh man, I wish I didn't have to rely so much on Adobe products, but I rely on Adobe products simply because it's what I was trained with while I was in school. However, let's just say I really need products that allow me to create visually. So a certain kind of paint program, a certain kind of video editing program, and I think proper lighting is also indispensable. When I'm creating videos and things like that, it would hinder my production if I had to reshoot because of poor lighting. You know what I mean? Like, I think those things are extremely important. And I think also, my notebook, honestly, like being able to write down ideas and being able to like, experiment and like, just have free flowing thought. Those are some things that I can't live without that book. You know what I mean? I gotta be able to write things down, share it, sit on it, think about it, and then do it, and do it. So yeah, those are indispensable to my process.
Okay. That's what I'm working on. Is like the different tools I need. Like I see, like it's like, especially like right now, my lighting is not that great, but it's like, okay, I know what I need to work on. I know what I need to improve. And doing like, and then like having a good background. That's why I have the green screen. Just change the background up every now and then.
Yeah.
Like how, 'cause I know before, was a while ago when you were streaming, you were getting set up in your new spot, and you were saying like, I got to get my room set up. It's not how I want it, and then as you have all your stuff displayed, like now, it's like I love it. It's like I can't wait to get there to be able to do stuff.
Yeah, and of course, it's a step-by-step process, right? Like, no one's gonna have, unless you are fortunate enough to have like a lot of disposable income, no one's gonna have like all the tools right away, or even know what tools they need right away until you get into it and start experimenting and figuring out what your needs are. So, yeah, it's a process. You get little things here and there. I'm always like looking out for, should I get this new gadget, or this experiment with this thing or whatever. I wish that there was a service out there for like broadcasters that allowed us to rent stuff and decide if we like it, rent to buy, or
Right.
like, figure out like, is this thing, compatible with my computer or right for me or whatever. Like, somebody build that business, you got like $1 million idea right there.
Oh, definitely. How do you handle your creative blocks, or if you have low motivation?
Oh my gosh, low motivation. You gotta learn to live with it. You gotta learn to push through. It's not easy. It's very much easier said than done, because there are times when I feel like so overworked, or like that I'm like not getting enough sleep or whatever, and that can obviously, have an impact on my ability to think and like do things and motivation. But I think you have to give yourself the grace to rest, and you have to be kind to yourself when you do need that rest, and not like, obsess over the fact of like, I didn't get something done today, or I should have been more productive or whatever. And I think allowing yourself to also absorb, art or things around you, like books, just going outside, taking a break, like taking a step away. Because sometimes you can get so laser focused on things that you start to not see the things because you get tunnel vision from looking at it so much, right?
Yeah.
So I think taking breaks and like, making sure that you're giving time to yourself would help when you're feeling that burnout or feeling that like lack of like inspiration. But I feel like in order sometimes to be inspired, you have to find things to inspire yourself with. So like, that's why like for me, that's like, involving myself in creative processes. So like drawing, painting, going to a museum, doing photography, or, like video editing is like a process that's really creative to me that I enjoy. And, maybe just like sitting back and watching a movie, like getting an idea from a movie or like a TV show or something like that. Those are things that I kind of do. And things that I find that motivate me is looking out there and seeing what others are doing, and, finding out like, how did they do that process? Like that was a really cool thing that they did. And then like, watching a tutorial or reading a manual on something that like inspires me. to want to do more or be better. So, filling you got to feed your brain. You got to feed your brain to constantly kind of stay motivated. But if you're having that low and you don't know what to do, just be kind to yourself and take a break and take a rest, and then come back to it when you're feeling better.
Definitely good advice. So what kind of advice do you give to someone starting off in content creation?
The first thing I always tell people is understand what your motivation is. Why are you doing this? What do you want out of it? If you don't have that understanding, then you might set goals that are unattainable or unachievable at the level where you're starting. So understanding that it's a marathon, not a race, and there's going to be ups and downs, and you've got to love it just as much when it's feeling down rather than up. You've got to love what you do. You have to love, because you're going to do a lot of work for free or low pay at first. Bobby has decided she is done with this. You gotta just really, really do it because you love it. And I mean, I feel like that goes with anything in life, right? Like if you just take on something solely for the money or solely for the notoriety, there are going to be aspects that are going to burn you out, because if you don't achieve what you're looking for immediately, you don't get that immediate what's the word that I'm looking for? My brain's not working. I'm still sleeping, to be honest with you. If you don't get that payoff, you don't get that immediate payoff, you might be like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? So I would say you gotta know your purpose. And if you know your purpose, you're also gonna understand what you wanna do. And that'll help you decide who you wanna talk to. And once you know that, it'll help you mold what kind of content you create. Like, I know I want to talk to people who love retro games. I know I want to talk to people who love Super Nintendo and Amiga and PlayStation and DOS. So whenever I take photos or I make videos, I know what those people are going to be looking for, because I've created so much of it that I've gotten certain responses of what works, what doesn't work. But also, like I experiment too. Like maybe I'll make something that's not retro related and see how that works out, Right. Like I recently posted about wheat cereal, and everybody was like, oh, I remember my grandmother used to make me eat this, and like it was funny, So those are other things that kind of showcase my personality, and I just wanted to make people laugh. So that's also a driving factor. So, but that's one of my motivations. Is like I want to make people laugh. I want to make people feel like that awesome, like comforting, like I know this, but it also feels kind of new feeling, and that's what drives me. So yeah, knowing your purpose, knowing how you want to talk to people, and creating a concept for your channel or whatever it is you want to do, because that'll help drive the type of content you make.
That's probably kind of touched on this. The last question too is like, how important is it to find a unique voice or angle in your content creation?
I think it's very important to give yourself direction, because it's like looking at a blank canvas. Like some people get super intimidated to make a mark because they don't know. They'll second guess themselves, like, oh, what if I make the wrong mark, or what if no one likes this mark, or like what if I don't like the mark, or you know what I mean? But I think that and giving yourself the ability to make mistakes and be happy about those mistakes, I think is like super important, because I find that a lot of things that I do are accidental. Like sometimes I'll post something that is like super curated and it won't get as many, responses or interactions as something that I just posted on a whim, and it just be like that sometimes. Like that's why I also say you got to accept the highs and the lows, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a career that is full of unknown and uncalculable, like things that we cannot calculate. So you can calculate some of it, but some you can't. So I just I feel like just giving yourself the grace to just go out there, experiment. But I feel like, to have like kind of an idea of where you want to take it at first, to give you that direction and be like, okay, I really like doing this. I really like how this video came out. I want to do more of it. And then it gives you like a basis of like, it gives you a base of like content to like kind of work with, be like showcase, like, oh, like, there's this developer that I want to work with that makes like retro games. And like, I decided I really want to focus on that. So now I have a body of work that I can share with them, like that's always like really helpful. But I also think the flip side of that is like sometimes people feel burnout when they stick to one thing too long. Like they feel like they have to stick to this one thing. And if they don't, they're going to lose viewership and things like that. Or, maybe people might not interact with their content as much. But I think that you have to, if you're in this field, you have to be okay with the fact that things are going to fluctuate. Interest is going to fluctuate. Numbers are going to fluctuate. That is a part of this job, as a part of this lifestyle. And once you know and understand that, I think you'll feel the freedom to create content that might be outside of like whatever like you decided to focus on, So it's a little bit of both. Like find a focus to start off with. And then once you find that focus, like experiment a little bit. So that way, instead of it being about the thing that you're doing, it becomes more about you as a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Because that's what I did with this podcast. So that's why I rebranded. Because I was like you mentioned about being in school, I'm currently in media school. Mm-hmm. So I'm learning different aspects. And one of the teachers, I did like a interview as part of one of my projects. And I did one of the teachers. And the questions I asked, she was like, it made me think. Mm-hmm. It's like, is my podcast gonna, what my podcast gonna reach? Am I gonna be able to? It was like, okay, I changed the aspect. I changed my thinking. Because like you said, things change, interests change, and it was like I can focus on gaming, or I can focus on the big field, which is content creation. Mm-hmm. Which there's different content creators out there, and a lot of people don't know how to get into it. So changing to like different podcast, like for people who do gaming, art, food, anime, just different content creations is, I feel like it's gonna help a lot of people to start their own, to get into it, and not think about, oh, maybe I should do this first, maybe I should do that first. That's some definitely great advice. That helps me too.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And all of the people who consume each of the different categories you spoke on, those are all very different people, right? Those are all different people who think all differently or have different focuses. So they're going to have different motivation for why they're listening to, certain, channels that they're listening to. Like somebody listening to anime, might not necessarily always listen to something about art, but there are overlaps there, right? Mm-hmm. Like anime is all art. There's also an overlap with anime and food. Like there's anime that's like specifically about food, the culinary arts. Right. So there's overlaps there, but then there's also things that are specific to each one of those niches. And yeah, you're going to want to talk to all those people differently. And it's like you said, it's learning along the way and then identifying the needs of each one of those groups. So that way you can fit something that they're looking for.
Yep. Let's talk about future plans. What upcoming projects or content are you most excited about?
Yeah, like I said, the blog that I've been working on, writing more, is something I'm really excited about. I feel like people can get a lot of value out of that. Not just me, like as a content creator, writing things to better my skills, but also, gamers who are looking for games to get into. and they don't necessarily only want to read like, a Steam review. And also developers, they sometimes have very small teams or very small budgets, and being able to help uplift like indie developers and bring more attention to their games is something that I think could be mutually beneficial, for me as somebody who wants to get into like writing about games and covering games and going to like game events, but also for them to like kind of like build an audience and get more eyes out on their projects that they're working on. And I get to go to events like PAX East and things like that, and MagFest, and like all of these trade shows and conventions, and you meet a lot of really cool people. That's stuff that I really love doing. I love going to those events and meeting people and talking about like our passion for video games. So that also is what is motivating me to want to do more writing for video games. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to some like, I don't know how to call it. Like, it's not really like it things to improve my own channel, right? Like, I'm working on updating my website. I'm working on updating my channel trailer. I'm adding new channel point redemptions. I'm adding new interactive ways for people to interact with my channel, because my Twitch stream is always going to be the number one thing that I focus on. That's always going to be like the thing that I love doing the most, and I'm going to put all my effort into. But there are things like ancillary things that go around it, so that I'm really excited about, and just improving, the different aspects of what I do. And also, one goal that I have is I want to get into either improv or acting classes, because I want to be able to, entertain, to a higher capacity. I want to make people laugh. I want to make people feel happy about sharing the space with me, for the 3-4 hours that we stream together. So I want to continue to elevate my skill at doing that. So those are things that I'm really excited about for myself.
Sounds good. I can't wait. I can't wait to about the blog and everything with the content you're talking about putting out.
Yeah.
Can't wait to that.
Oh yeah. And one other thing that I just remembered too is I have this Sony Handycam that's right here on my shelf, right here. So it's a camera, like a video camera from the 90s, and I've had it since I was a kid, and I've been recording on it, and I love the quality that the tapes give the film, right? And so I want to use that for like a series of videos, or like, if I go out to a convention, like record and do like a documentary style video to upload to YouTube, but using that like, technology that has a certain look, a certain feel to it. I'm really excited about that. So that's definitely something to look out for as well.
And that definitely fits with your retro
Exactly.
retro theme. So
Exactly.
I definitely can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
All right. So can you tell our listeners where they can find you and how to follow you?
Sure. So my name is AshSaidHi. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Threads, Blue Sky, and mainly on Twitch. I focus a lot on Twitch. I upload all my VODs to YouTube, and sometimes I stream and upload videos to TikTok as well. And I'm always posting on Twitter. So, if you want to see what I'm up to, you want to see what Bobby's up to, that's a good place to follow us. And I do have a Discord, of course. If you go to my Twitch channel, you'll be able to find the link to the Discord. But yeah, you can find me everywhere at AshSaidHi. So my name is the same everywhere. It shouldn't be hard to find me.
Well, I do thank you for being back on the show. This marks the end of our season, so thank you for once again coming through and talking about what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time. This has been really fun.
Thank you. Yes, it has been. Thank you once again. Thank you for tuning in to the Content Playbook. And thank you for our guests for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep creating and stay inspired.